Okay, so if you wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep, you might be missing something hiding in your mouth. And it's not cavities, it's not bad breath, it's silent inflammation. And it's often overlooked even in clinical settings. And as a dentist, I see this all the time. Mouths that look healthy but are quietly draining the body's energy. And in this video, I'll show you how hidden oral problems can affect your whole body and a three-step protocol I recommend to reduce oral stress and support systemic health. And one of those steps involves something you do every morning, but in a way that actually makes things worse. But first, what is silent inflammation and what does it look like in the mouth? So most people think of inflammation as redness, swelling, pain, something obvious, but in the mouth, it's often the opposite. So it can be completely painless, and in fact, many people have signs of oral inflammation right now and they don't even know it. The gums might bleed a little when brushing, or the tongue might have a light coating in the back, or you might have a dry mouth throughout the day, or even a breath that doesn't go away no matter how much you brush. And these things feel small, but together they point to something deeper, a chronic, low-grade immune response happening every single day right inside your mouth. And your immune system sees this inflammation as a threat. So when it's constantly activated, even in small amounts, it slowly wears down the body. And that can show up as fatigue, poor sleep, brain fog, or even weakened stress response. And the problem is this type of inflammation rarely gets flagged. It doesn't show up in routine blood work, and because the mouth looks completely healthy on the surface, it often gets missed. But the truth is, these signs often show up long before there is pain, decay, bleeding. But under the surface, your body is fighting a quiet war. So the more energy it spends fighting inflammation, the less energy it has for everything else. And that's where the three-step protocol comes in. And let's start with something simple but counterintuitive, and that is to stop using alcohol-based mouthwash. And I know it might sound strange after all the years we've been told to use mouthwash as part of our daily routine and to keep our mouth healthy and clean. There's something most people don't realize, and that is these mouthwashes don't just kill bad bacteria, they actually wipe out everything, including the good bacteria in your mouth that actually need to stay in balance. This creates a rebound effect. So the harmful bacteria, the ones that cause odor, inflammation, acid buildup, they grow back faster and stronger, especially when your mouth is dry, and that happens after using that alcohol-based rinse. And one study even showed how using mouthwash twice a day was linked to a higher risk of high blood pressure because of how it disrupted the good bacteria that helped regulate nitric oxide, a key chemical for blood vessel function. And that doesn't mean all mouthwash is bad, but if you're still using a rinse that burns, then that's a red flag. And a better option here would be using a natural saliva production. So use xylitol-based sprays or rinses, or skip mouthwash altogether and focus entirely on gentle brushing and tongue cleaning instead, and flossing. And because your saliva is designed to protect your mouth, it carries enzymes, buffer acidity, and nourishes good bacteria. And the more you dry it or wipe it clean, the harder your body has to work to rebalance things. And that brings us to the next step, and it all has to do with a single spot in your mouth that almost everyone misses, and that is cleaning the back of your tongue. So most people brush their teeth, maybe some even floss, but the tongue, it's almost always ignored, especially the back third. And that's exactly where the problem is, because the very back of your tongue is covered in tiny grooves and ridges and crevices, and these spaces basically trap bacteria, dead cells, food particles, and sulfur compounds. And over time, that buildup of biofilm, a sticky layer of bacteria, releases toxins and gas. And that's not just where the bad breath comes from. So these sulfur compounds, also known as volatile sulfur compounds or VSCs, actually irritate the tissue inside your mouth and activate the immune response and immune system and even get absorbed in your bloodstream. And there's even early research suggesting that high levels of these compounds actually plays a role in chronic inflammation, fatigue, and even mental fog. And while the evidence here is still growing, what we know for sure is cleaning your tongue, especially the back third, dramatically reduces these toxins within days. And the key here is consistency and technique. So make sure you use a dedicated tongue scraper and start with the back of your tongue and gently pull forward. Don't press too hard. The goal is to remove the coating and not to damage the tissue or the tongue. And do it once a day, preferably in the morning before you eat. And what you'll notice is a difference in your breath. And more importantly, you're also reducing one of the biggest sources of oral inflammation that most people ignore. And cleaning your tongue is powerful, but it's just one piece. And there are also a few other parts in the mouth where early inflammation shows up, and most people never check them, and we'll get to these soon. And that brings us to step 3, how to protect your mouth all day long, even between meals. So this third step isn't about brushing or flossing, it's about what happens after you eat. So every time you eat, especially carbohydrates, starch, acidic foods, bacteria in your mouth feed on those sugars and release acid. And what happens is that lowers the pH of your mouth, and it weakens your enamel and triggers inflammation in the gums. And unless you're brushing after every snack, which isn't realistic, and I don't recommend you do, most people just let the damage build up throughout the day. And that's where xylitol comes in. So xylitol is a natural sweetener that's found in gum, mint, and mouth sprays. And it's one of the few ingredients that actually helps restore the balance in your mouth. And unlike sugar, xylitol doesn't feed the harmful bacteria in your mouth. In fact, it blocks them from sticking onto the surfaces of your teeth and gums. It also helps stimulate saliva, raise the pH level in your mouth, and protect the good bacteria that keep the inflammation in check. And multiple studies have shown that using xylitol several times a day, even in small amounts, reduces plaque, improves gum health, and supports your oral microbiome. But here's the catch. It's not just about using xylitol, it's about how often you use it. And I often recommend patients use it after every meal or snack. A gum, a mint, or even a spray can make a difference, because it interrupts that acid cycle and gives your mouth a chance to recover. But even if you follow this 3-step protocol, there are early warning signs I always check for in patients who seem healthy but feel tired, foggy, or inflamed. And they often show up before there's any pain, and they're easy to miss. And in the next video, I'll walk you through the 3 mouth warning signs that your health may be declining. And that video is right here when you're ready.